What's up everybody, this is Matt from Work Hustle Freedom, and today I'm going to share with you some tips and strategies in my journey of how I took a brand new Shopify store, print on demand, from zero to $500,000 in just 2 months. If you want to learn more about how you can start or grow your own print on demand business, please hit the subscribe button now, turn on notifications because we have a ton of great content coming your way, and I have no doubt that this Q4 could be life-changing money for you. Thanks for sticking around.
A matter of time before I'm over the climb and moving under my prime. Just quit my 9 to 5.
So welcome back to Work Hustle Freedom. I know I've been absent a little while building out my businesses, and so I was paying as much attention there as possible, but I have a ton of great content coming your way. I think you're gonna really find some value in it. So a little bit about me, I'm not gonna belabor the point and go back to in like every single little detail, but I basically started online since 2010. And back then I was doing niche sites, a lot of SEO, a lot of link building, a lot of basically work and praying for results. I survived the pandas, the penguins, all the things that would, Google would just come in and decide one day that your site didn't have quality indicators and it would take away your rankings and subsequently your income. It was tough. And so I was looking for something else that was a bit more predictable, something that I had more control of. And so in 2014, I heard a lot of chatter in this space and people were talking about Facebook ads. And I thought, interesting, I'm gonna go check it out. So I spent $50 on Facebook ads and I got a big fat goose egg. No sales. And I was pissed. And I was like, Facebook doesn't work. It's too expensive. There's no way anybody can make money. It's just these people selling courses on how to sell things with Facebook ads. It doesn't actually work. Well, fast forward till a year later, 2015, t-shirts was huge. Specifically, people were selling on the Teespring platform. And that's when I kind of got the bug again. And I thought, there must be something to this. I'm seeing a lot of name shirts everywhere. Maybe I can do the same thing. Well, unfortunately, right around the time I started, Facebook changed their terms of service. You weren't allowed to take people's IDs and find the names. So like the old-fashioned, trying to think of the old t-shirts, some of them were like, it's a Robinson thing you wouldn't understand. Those kinds of things where you can actually target a list of people with the last name Robinson. Well, that particular avenue of fun had closed down by the time I got involved, but I was still relatively early on in the game. So in about June of 2015, I had my first campaign hit 100 sales. By October later on that year, I had my biggest day ever in shirts, was probably about 1,000 units in a single day. And I was really starting to see the potential. At this time, I'm still working as a financial analyst, as a CPA, but doing this just kind of on the side in order to make some extra money, take my family on vacations, buy some nicer things, and not have to take from our household budget, which is really a great thing. At this time, it's just my wife and I, no kids involved, so I could spend all my excess time basically on just playing around online and not taking it too seriously. Well then, fast forward to about 2018, all of a sudden one day my wife comes to me, we are expecting, and she says, I fell asleep on the couch. I think that I might have slept funny. And I think I'm gonna go move to the bed. I got a backache. And I was like, okay, that's fine. And then and I was actually working on my online business at the time. And then a short while later, she came back in the room and said, something's wrong. I have a really bad pain. I think I need to call the doctor. And so she did, and subsequently the doctor said, you guys need to get to the hospital right away. But don't go to your normal hospital. Go to the hospital that has a higher level of care, just in case something's wrong. So we had to end up driving down to the cities, which was about twice as far as we planned. Remember, it was a cold winter night. Keep in mind, my wife's only 25 weeks and 4 days along right now, and a typical pregnancy lasts 40 weeks. And so she was really early in her pregnancy. And they were basically brought her in and did some examinations, and after a lot of tests determined that she was actually having something called HELP syndrome, which is actually extremely rare, and it's actually kind of combined with this condition called preeclampsia, which is very high blood pressure. And so they said they were going to have to basically put her into labor. And take the baby. And I was like totally oblivious to anything baby. Like I had no experience. I didn't know if we were gonna have a tadpole. Like, are babies even a baby at 25 weeks? I had no idea. And so I kind of felt like they were just, telling us, going through the motions about having a baby to like make us not freak out. But inside I was kind of freaking out. I thought they were just doing it to be nice, and basically we would be saying goodbye to what would have been a baby. But fast forward several hours later, and my daughter was born. She was born at just over a pound, 1 pound 5 ounces, and she was all fully formed. I remember when she was born, they said, well, she all has 10 fingers and toes, so that's great. And I was like, whoa, I didn't even think about that at that point. And so, she was born, she came into the world, but obviously she has some challenges because she was about the size of a stick of butter. And so she ended up spending 144 days in the NICU on oxygen, and then came home on oxygen for several months afterwards until her lungs were strong enough. Fast forward now, she's a 4-year-old. All that stubbornness and all that just like refusal to quit that she had as a newborn, she still has it as a 4-year-old. And so, yeah, there's always a reminder of that struggle. But really going through that kind of changed my life. Like, I started to see the power of living for somebody else besides yourself. So I kind of found my why in that, which is really powerful. They say that, I think it's Nietzsche says that the person who finds their why can master any how. And that's kind of what took me to that next level. I was really bound and determined to like, okay, maybe this print on demand thing isn't just a side income. Maybe I can take it to make a full-time income and spend more time, with my family and actually have financial freedom. Given the fact that you could build real cash flow. You're not basically trading your dollars for hours. You can sell products and sell them in huge numbers. And so I got really into it. I doubled down. I learned a lot more. I kind of got back into, what I was doing before. Unfortunately, while we were in the hospital, I wasn't working at all. And I basically came to a point right when we came out of the hospital where I had to tell my wife that I was in significant debt. As a matter of fact, at one point, I was about $40,000 in debt just from trying to keep things going while I wasn't able to work in the business. And I actually went to my wife, and it was one of the hardest conversations I've ever had to have was to tell her. And she was like basically asking me how much I was in debt. And she, I basically told her, and she kind of guessed too, which was weird. And she's like, you'll figure it out, basically like supporting me, which like blew my mind that even in this, like what I would, call my darkest hour, she believed in me. One of the first people to ever like believe in me. And fortunately, I was able to find some mentors as well that kind of coached me back into it after spending so much time in the hospital, getting no sleep. They coached me into it, how I could really take my knowledge and use it to really build something meaningful, and how to do it without trying to get off on so many different paths that I could potentially take off on. So I am happy to say by 2019, I actually connected with a friend of mine and colleague who had a massive success selling coffee mugs for Mother's Day and Father's Day. And I was kind of looking at, he was very gracious and was kind enough to share a lot about what he was doing, but he really didn't have the time to do it at the same level at this time that he once was. So I kind of picked up the torch, and I was basically testing based on what he had tested, different variations and things like that. And I'll be darned, but three products in, I was spoiled. I hit a winner that I then went on to sell millions of dollars worth, thousands and tens of thousands of units. And I actually used that money to purchase a couple lots up on a lake that my family is now able to use and camp at, and eventually we plan on building a cabin on it. But just by the power of print on demand. An interesting fact, since purchasing that land in 2019, it's doubled in value, more than doubled in value. So it just kind of shows the power of, it doesn't have to just be a cash machine that you're funneling money back into a print on demand business. You can actually take that money as an influx of cash and invest it in other, revenue and asset producing assets, or cash flow or assets producing assets. And so I think that's really important, and that was a huge kind of game changer for me to say, hey, this could be used as a cash machine to facilitate other investments. This is huge for me. And so I ended up basically selling that whole year, and then actually got into like a little bit of a dry spell where I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I started to try to do too much. And I'm sure a lot of you have seen this. We call it shiny object syndrome. I had it big time. I felt like if I could sell physical products, I could sell affiliate stuff, and I could do lead gen, and I could do this or that, or crypto, and all these different things. And what I ended up happening, especially, I think you probably can identify with this if you're working full time, is that you only have a certain amount of time to dedicate to any kind of business. So in order to be meaningful, you really have to have it concentrated and focused so that you're able to actually build the momentum that you need to take it off the ground. But by spreading yourself around so many different pursuits, you really don't get critical mass on anything, and it just drains your cash flow. And that's basically what I came down to was that I was just draining my cash flow. And so then obviously we know like 2020 happened. It was a real game changer moment. We started to see how fragile life was again, kind of like 2008 recession. Those of us who kind of went through that know that it was like a giant jolt to the system in terms of like reevaluating our lives, seeing how precious it is, seeing how precious time is. And I started to wonder, maybe I don't want to work full time and do my gig. Maybe, I'm getting towards middle age and maybe this is the time I need to really go into it. And all these things I've been doing with shiny object syndrome, chasing this and that, aren't working. So that's when I made the conscious effort that I needed to find a good product with high margins, a good supplier. After self-fulfilling, I can tell you that Christmas will run you ragged if you self-fulfill unless you have an actual team in place, which is a whole new level of complication. So in the spirit of the 4-hour work week, I was trying to keep it super simple. I wanted to focus on running ads and product creation and have fulfillment go to somebody else. But I didn't want to do t-shirts or mugs, which is where my success came from before. Like I said, I had a 7-figure business selling t-shirts, a 7-figure business selling mugs. I wanted something that had higher margins. And so that's when I stumbled upon high margin print on demand jewelry, which is what I sell now. And I actually found a person by the name of Michael Christ, who had a course where he was showing how he did $92,000 in a single day going up to Q4. And it just like blew my mind because I was looking at the units that he sold, looked at the units I sold, got to thinking, what if all those shirts and mugs I sold were jewelry pieces? Like that could be huge money, like retirement money, not just like, buy a couple lots of land here, take some vacations once a year that are paid for. This could be a whole new level of wealth. And so I decided then to basically commit to, for 1 year. 1 year, I was gonna do print on demand jewelry and only print on demand jewelry. And I basically went through and I unsubscribed to every single email list that I was a part of that didn't serve that purpose. So I was singularly focused. It's tough. You have to fight every day for your focus. I always say that. I always wake up and say, fight for your focus, because there's constantly things being bombarded at us that will try to take it away at this new opportunity, something that you just cannot let go. If you don't move now, you're gonna miss out. I had to learn how to be very responsible and how to just completely focus. And how I did that was I knew my goal. I knew that I wanted to sell $100,000 of print on demand jewelry, and I wanted to do it within that year. And I wanted to be very specific about what I was going to spend my time on. And so I ended up taking a few more courses. I actually signed up for the Ecom Performance Mastermind as one of them, which is run by Mario Menduni. And I actually am a coach now for this program. If you want more information about it, you can click the link in the description below. We can get on a call, see if you're a good fit. Maybe we are, maybe we aren't. It doesn't hurt to have a chat. But if it's not something that you're willing to, that you're ready to invest into actual coaching right now, stick around this channel. Be sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell, because I'm going to be putting a lot of great resources here to help you start to get that trickle of cash flow, so then you can buy warp speed by investing in coaching. So in total, I've invested in about 4 different coaches specifically to print on demand jewelry. And when I did that, I supercharged everything. I got good at defining my mindset. I started working out, which means that everything else in my life was actually getting more in sync. I thought working out was going to take time away from the income producing activities that I should do, and I was not going to be as effective. But in actuality, it made me more effective because when my mind and my body were both healthy, I was able to come up with more phrases, I was able to focus, I was able to do the monotonous work that you have to do and grind it out in order to be successful in this business. And in actuality, I learned that the level of action that you actually think you have to take as a beginner is probably about 10 times what your expectations are. It just boggles my mind sometimes when I meet with successful sellers on huge levels, even levels higher than I am, and I see the level of action that they take. And it just makes me empowered to be like, hey, I can do this too. And so I regress, but I go back to the point that I took 4 coaching courses in 3 years, or not 3 years. I took 4 coaches in that year coming around into 2021. The last one being the Ecom Performance Mastermind. And that was in October. Things I learned in the first one, I learned about the mindset, like I said. The second one was the Shine On coaching that I took. It was a paid mastermind, still is. I learned a lot about phrase building, how to like basically construct phrases that resonate with people, how to simplify design, things like that. When I got to the Ecom Performance Mastermind, I learned how to objectively review my ads based on the data, not based on how I felt about any particular quote, and that was a game changer for me. I also learned about how to be really specific about the daily things I needed to do in order to test designs appropriately. And I just got to a whole new level of being organized, being focused, and just like following a really simple process. And the majority of the coaching involved Mario just taking me down and saying, like, stop doing the stuff that doesn't work and focused on the gold dust to find the gold nuggets, and just keeping me consistent in that. And I will say that I was about to quit. This is November of 21. I was about to quit because I was launching 5 to 10 designs a day, especially coming up to like Thanksgiving. I was putting so much work in, every moment that I had on the weekends that I could spare. Every evening I was up till late just trying to be desperate to find something that worked. And at one point, I finally found my winner. It was November 25th. During that little sprint there, it was my 137th design that ultimately catapulted me, and it did $500,000 from November to the end of December. And I've had several winners since at a smaller level, going into like Mother's Day, Valentine's Day, and things like that. And so this brand itself is on track right now to do $1 million. Actually, right as of this moment, is pretty close to $1 million. And it is perfectly positioned now and mature enough that I really think realistically for Q4 2022, it could probably do $3 to $5 million just based on the projections that I'm seeing and based on the maturity of the brand. And an interesting point, when I did the $500,000 for Q4, the biggest day I ever had was right before the cutoff. There's like a cutoff date where you have to have all your orders in order to make the Christmas delivery time. And there was like 3 days before that cutoff, I had a $28,000 day. So this is me complaining about like spending $30 on tests not even a month before, and now I had a $28,000 day, and I was upset that Facebook capped my ad spend. My ad spend was capped at $10K a day. And so I had to go into an appeal process in order to request that my daily limit get raised. And subsequently it did get raised to about 3 times that or so. And unfortunately, by the time it was raised, it was after the deadline. It was like on the day of the deadline for orders to be received by Christmas. And so I never really got a chance to take things to the next level, which is something I'm definitely going to do in Q4 2022 this year. So that's a little bit about my story. I hope it inspired you. If you have any questions about print on demand, specifically print on demand jewelry or anything really, because I've done mugs, t-shirt designs and everything. We do Etsy, we do Amazon, we do all that stuff. We're a fully built system to build fully integrated brands. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below and I will answer them. And if they're really good, I might make a follow-up video about them. Please feel free to subscribe if you want to learn more about print on demand. I have a lot of great content coming your way. So thank you so much for listening and have a great day.
It's just a matter of time before I'm over the climb and moving under my prime. Just quit my 9 to 5. I'm rocking, they watching, cause it's shocking, dropping all these top 10.